This is Rare Media. To whom it concerns, welcome to the panel.
Good evening, and once again, Wednesday the 25th of September, and it's another edition of the panel. Good evening, Lillian, and welcome.
Good evening, Pat. Good evening, Mary.
Hi, Lillian.
Good evening, Mary, and welcome. And we will be joined later on with another guest with a bit of luck. Now, for all of those of you, we'd like you to subscribe to our channel on our YouTube channel. And you have a very simple way of doing it. You press the red button on the right-hand side as you're looking at the screen and subscribe to our channel. And we very much appreciate it. We're trying to get our subscriptions up to 1,000. I think we have 786 now, so we haven't far to go. It doesn't mean you can press it 200 times because you're going to do it once. Anyway, and you'll find out from that. Anyway, if it was that easy, we'll be up long ago. And to all the people who took the time to look at them, almost 1,000 views on our Facebook page alone, which is incredible when you think about it, you know. And they must like something about us anyway, you know. Certainly not for me, not for my looks anyway, I can tell you that much, but they might like the content. We don't know what it is. We'll find out maybe some other time. But this evening we're speaking about a few current issues, and one of them is, broadly speaking, is the wanton waste of public money. And I just think, is it a link? Is it because you're not spending your own money, you know? Is it that kind of attitude that it doesn't matter how many knots are onto it, it won't really affect you or affect your earning or your wages or anything like that, and you can just sign off it. We're talking particularly about the bicycle shed in Dáil for 360,000. And now it came to light today in the OPW that who were charged with the responsibility of it spent 1.426 million on a new security hut in the entrance to Leinster House with a copper roof, whatever. I don't know why they have a copper roof on it. People might be able to tell me that. I don't know. But anyway, that's what they spent on the size of a mobile home. That's the size of the security hut. And together with that, we have the ongoing saga of the Children's Hospital, which, as we all know, and as the politicians should have known, it's in the wrong place anyway, inside in the middle of Dublin, where you can't get a cat around in traffic. But there you go. It's gone from 470 million to 2.2 billion is the latest estimate. And I think the opening date is pushed back to 2026. It's supposed to open this November, you know, of 2024, and now it's 2026. I don't know what's going on.
Well, they've no rooms completed in the hospital. They couldn't even take in patients now if they wanted to.
No, that's true. That is very true.
And it's been pushed back several times, the opening date. The cutting of the ribbon, I mean, that's that's so way off in the future. And look at all the sick children who've died in Limerick Regional Hospital.
Yeah.
They could have had specialist care in the hospital by now, you know. Instead, the heads are rolling around because of inquests and stuff into the teenager there who died.
Well, I know her. I know the family here in Shannon. That's Aoife Johnson. That was a tragic, horrendous, needless, unnecessary death. Mary, what do you think? Do you think
I agree with Lillian. I mean, there isn't one part of the hospital that has been completed. Now, that's either up to the government who have caused that, or the people who are building it, who are dragging their tails to gain more money. Now, it was said the other day that they were dragging their tails at it to get more money out of the Irish government, and of course they vehemently objected to that. But, you know, there's people dying. There's children on waiting lists for scoliosis treatment for years in abject misery and pain and suffering. And that hospital, which I would argue should never have been there in the first place, it should have been right in the center of the country where it served all of Ireland and not just Dublin. I think it was in the wrong position. It looks beautiful if it ever gets finished, because it seems to be in a stalemate right now, with one side saying the other side is dragging their heels.
Yeah, and they keep making changes to the outcome or to the plans of it.
So
Like
yeah.
something like 23,000 planning changes, and they all cost money as well, you know.
That's right.
Yeah,
The contractor
I,
said that they keep on being told to change, and plans keep being changed. You can't do that once you start it, you
No.
know.
our,
Without,
our present teacher was the Minister for Health who signed the contract on behalf of us and the government, all of that, in 2016. I forget now how long ago it was, 7 or 8 years ago. Now we need to see sight of that contract, you know. Now there are some indications that the contract was too open-ended, you know, on the contract, and I don't understand the nature of it. And this project is such a huge project in the state that to sign any contract that large and that big, I don't think Simon Harris himself had the competency to do that. That'd be my first.
Pat, I think that that's the main problem with governments, with all due respects. They put people in, they have Simon Harris in one role. And they had, and they have the Minister for Health and the Minister, and none of the, I fully believe that anyone who should be a Minister for Health, or a minister for education, or a minister for children, should have relevant experience, the same as anybody else that goes for a job. If you go for a job in the morning, I can't go for the job of an accountant. One, I'd have people bankrupt within 2 days because I haven't got a clue about finance.
And you'd have spent all the money.
I've spent all the money, it burns a hole in my pocket. But the logic of putting somebody as a minister for health who has no qualifications in the health industry or in the health area, and putting someone as a minister for education who stayed, I think it was 6 months on a degree course before pulling out. Now, there's no shame in that, but he's responsible for youngsters who are trying to get jobs, and youngsters in the education system who are doing higher degrees and doing degrees and everything, and he just doesn't have the qualifications. If you're a medical doctor, I think you should be given a post in the medical field, and
Yeah,
if you have finance qualifications, then you should be in the Minister for Finance, or those areas. Putting somebody like me, for instance, or a school teacher in as a minister for for health, or a minister for finance,
yeah, it's a waste of time.
you're
It's
taking
it's a
your
disaster.
it's a
Well,
disaster.
well, I think first of all there is some merit in that, but you must remember in each government department, it, regardless of who's minister, you have a secretary general who's experienced, who's there in the particular department. You have a couple of assistant secretary generals underneath that person, and you have a huge amount of principal officers who are underneath that, and then you have another load of higher executive officers, and then you have another layer of executive officers and staff officers. So you have a whole organisation within the department to run it.
Well, we know that the civil service runs everything. That the ministers are really taking their lead from. But you go back to, you look at people like Alan Shatter, who was a lawyer, barrister. You look at Willie O'D, who had qualifications in law and in finance, in accountancy. These should be in the positions, in those positions, those ministerial positions in those areas. People who know those areas and have done it outside of government. Um, it just beggars belief to me that somebody can just walk into a job. And secondly, people who just barely made it in to be elected, who maybe got in on the 10th count, is the leader of our country.
Well, that's a fundamental flaw in the system in that we did not elect Simon Harris to be Taoiseach. I mean, we the people, the ordinary Joe Soaps of this country, he was elected by the Dáil. And of course, you could say, well, the Dáil was elected by all of us. There were. But when we elected the last government, we understood there'd be a rotating Taoiseach between the leader of Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael. Now Fine Gael are on their second Taoiseach, isn't he, after Varadkar?
But Pat,
And
what position? How on what count did Simon Harris get in on?
well, I don't think he was elected in the first count anyway.
Wasn't,
There's a
and
couple of
neither
counts.
was Leo Varadkar.
But that's the nature of our PR system, you know. But he was elected to the Dáil. But anyway, there will be a general election soon. With these things going on in the background of importance to people, there's a budget being produced by that same Taoiseach government next Tuesday in the Dáil. And look at all the money that we know of that's being wasted. And what about the money that we do not know of that's being wasted as well? And people will be looking for crumbs off the table. You know, people who are vulnerable in our society. I know today in one of the main radio stations, I think in our first program or our second program, we spoke about loneliness. You know, how it's a blight in communities and individuals living in our communities. It's a terrible blight for people to struggle with it. You know, they struggle with it. A lot of people told me that myself to my own face. And they had a discussion today for the first time that I heard on one of the local radio stations or national radio stations. It's around about 10, 15 minutes. But I thought it was very interesting that they're going to look in the budget for some money for that aspect of it to improve the situations in the community-based programs. But the interviewer who was doing it did not either understand or appreciate the effect that loneliness can have on the soul and the spirit of people. Did not appreciate or affect it. I said, number one, because the personal circumstances and his youth, and I'm not knocking him because he's young, you have to be young once, I know that, but really he didn't have any understanding of the topic, which did not lend itself to a good discussion on it, you know, in my opinion, you know.
But
I'm
there's
not
an
saying,
awful lot, Pat. There's an awful lot wrong with this country, and I'm sure Lillian will agree with me on this. The main problem I have with this country is that we talk about racism, we talk about sexism, we talk about all the isms that there are, xenophobia, everything. We never ever talk about ageism in this country.
No,
You go for a job, and no matter how much, I mean, Lillian Burke is there with, as far as I know, 5 degrees. I'm
full.
4. I have 4. And
now remember now, Joe Biden had 3 degrees.
no, but you go in looking for a job, and before you go that they want youngsters straight out of school.
The
Yet,
two.
they want you to stay. They want you to go maybe from the retirement age is 65. They want people to leave their jobs at 65. Now they people are living into their 90s and longer
Yeah.
now. They expect Pat Barry's father is 96 years of age, and they keep ringing up to find out is he still alive, because he's drawing the pension since he was 65 years of age, and he's still fit to work. And
Yeah.
that to me is absolutely immoral, because there's people like Lillian Burke, Dr. Lillian Burke, there's people like me, and others who are not given the opportunity because they want youngsters coming out of school. And before you walk out of an interview, no matter how much qualified you are for the job, that
Yeah.
job is gone to
That's,
somebody that can pay little or nothing to,
yeah.
but don't have an eighth of your qualifications.
That's very true. Very true, Mary.
Yeah.
It's ageist, and they just want youngsters so that they can They're more
manipulated.
malleable. They can break them better. They can break them into the system better, Whereas we're older and we might question things. We might question the running of things or the system, and they don't want that either.
But they're
No.
very clever. They won't say that it's an
Well, they
agency.
can't. They can't say it's. They can't say we didn't. You didn't get the job because you're 54 or whatever you are, because that would be against the law. It would be illegal. But everyone knows. Everyone knows that.
Everyone,
But
That
the government talks about bringing in jobs for women, like they did some time back, quota jobs for women and quota jobs for this person and that this group and that group. But nobody ever talks about what about the jobs for, you go back as a mature student, you do all your qualifications as a mature student. They're glad to take your money in colleges, and
yeah.
they know when you're walking out the door of that college, you're no matter how qualified or educated you are and how many degrees you
And how
have
well you doing them?
and how well you do, you can get all your first class honors in the world, but because you're over 50, might as well forget it.
Yeah, that's very true.
Something drastically needs to change,
Yeah,
because there's people leaving this country, a wealth of knowledge leaving this country.
the brain drain.
Brain drain, and the brain drain doesn't stop at 19, 20, 30s, 40s. you
Yeah,
know
I know. I know. It's a contradiction in terms, because there's a huge emphasis on re-education, re-skilling yourself, and upskilling.
what
And
more, what more than
you're
that?
encouraged to do that. And but as you said, when that process is finished, nobody wants you because
yeah,
you're a certain age. They don't care, as you said, Lillian. It doesn't matter if you've got first class degrees in every subject, right up to the thing. Nobody wants you, and nobody is saying it. But
yeah.
it's a silent. It's a terrible, terrible thing altogether. I
Silent,
think myself.
silent killer. It affects.
Well, it is a silent killer in one sense. It kills the spirit of one.
It does. Yeah,
And it gives the impression that you're not worth anything in society. And it's terrible when it's happened over and over again. And you know that it has nothing to do with your qualifications, it has nothing to do
I
with your
think
skill
Lillian
set.
was saying
It's a,
something there.
yeah,
no, it plays terrible on mental health then, and
yeah,
because you're of no value,
yeah.
and it's harder and harder to keep doing courses and to keep re-educating yourself just to fit into a wedge, to get your foot in the door somewhere. But it's just soul destroying.
But it's a vicious cycle as well, Lillian and Pat. It's a vicious cycle, because if that wasn't the case, you wouldn't have, as you say, mental health. You'd have less mental health issues.
It would, of
You'd have
course.
you'd have less strain on the mental health services. You'd have less strain on the regular hospital services, because people would, uh, you know,
That you'd
uh,
be happier if you were working.
this is all right if you're a married woman or a married man, and you have a husband who's out working, or
Yeah,
both you have been working for most of your life and you've suddenly decided, oh, you're going to go and retire. But if you're a single person like you and I, Lillian,
yeah,
and you're there, and you need a job, because that's your income, everything falls down, your home falls down. Yeah, you're trying to decide whether you eat or whether you heat.
yeah,
And so your physical and your mental and your emotional well-being is down the tube. Whereas if everyone was guaranteed that they would be treated on an equal and a fair, a level playing field for jobs, and
yeah.
that ageism was completely abolished in this country, you'd have more people working longer, and
You
the health
would
service wouldn't be at the
at
at
a
the
premium as it's at. Yeah. But that's
Yeah,
what loneliness comes in as well with the ageism.
of course it does. There's no doubt about that, and they're both related, and
Yeah,
it's
I mean, Pat
something.
has retired since he was 65, and he was 66 before he could draw the pension.
Yeah,
And and I mean, he could still the two people that were given his job in the civil service when he walked out left within a week. They couldn't do the job, and they left the country. And they changed the rule after he left that you could
Well,
stay.
there was a rule. There was a rule in the civil service where you had to retire at 65. But there's people that came in after me. Then they were beneficiaries of the new rule, so it didn't matter to them. One of my colleagues retired recently. He was 73. So in my case, I was 65, and it was a huge traumatic experience for me because I felt I had the energy still to do the job, and to leave work on a Friday and wake up on the following Monday and have no structure to your day all of a sudden
Nobody should be forced out of a job
was,
until they're ready to leave.
and you're excluded from all your colleagues and all the other things, and it takes a huge adjustment, both emotionally and physically, to get into a different rhythm again, But I had other interests. I was lucky, but there are other people who wouldn't have that. A good
Yeah.
support system around me. But it's it's something that it's not spoken about often, but it should be more attention should be paid to it.
My father is 73 now, and he has Parkinson's, but he still works. He's retired mainly from a lot of the farming, but he still has dry cattle that he looks after, and
Yeah, and does it keep him going?
yeah, it keeps him going. It's hard to go out into the bad weather and that, because
Yeah, well, today now obviously was a very, very, and still is a very wet day.
But nobody should be forced out of their job until they retire. It's almost like they've put a number on it. And when you reach that number, you could be healthier than half of the teenagers going around. Obesity on the rise with teenagers. And you could be healthier and fitter than most of the teenagers or people in their 20s and 30s. But you've reached that golden number that you're no longer of value to anybody. And of course, people's mental health goes
yeah,
into
it's going
decline.
to be affected.
But
Yeah,
troubling that we're allowing it to happen in this country or
yeah.
anywhere.
And then if you do get a chance to go back to work, your mental health has probably suffered so much that it's difficult then to settle into a job.
Well,
It's another
yeah,
catch-22 as well.
it depends on how long you're out of it. But I dare say it would be a big challenge if you were 20 or 30 years out of the job. The
Yeah,
panel is the program here every Wednesday night with Lillian, Mary, and myself for the time being. And we take a little suspect a few times during the panel to break up our voices so they don't be challenging you too much. So in the time of the year for what it is, we'll just play you this little clip and hope you enjoy it.
Report, folks, but the rest of today is only fucking dreadful. Have a look at this. Look, rain pelting down from fucking all sides on top of us. No let up. You'll be drowned to the fucking bollocks. Look, in the Midlands you get a little bit of relief for an hour or so, but that's about it. I'm advising you not to go out. Look on Monday. I don't know how you're going to get the fucking kids to school. Thunder, lightning, rain, pissing, flooding, you fucking name it. Everything on fucking Monday. Big dirty wind coming in from the west. Look at it. Up from the southwest winds. They'll fucking cut the bollocks off you walking to school. They'll turn umbrellas inside out. I don't know how you're going to get up. Even Donegal are getting a bit of snow up there. There's no relief at all on Monday. And as for Tuesday, another dirty fucking day. Look at the cush of it. Look at the fucking rain everywhere.
Well, I think that weather forecast should be played every night for people.
yeah.
It's like a normal day in Ireland.
It's going to be like that now until the next June, isn't that right, Pat?
Oh, till next June, I said to Lillian, this is the weather. Like, is you go there with you?
Hugo's here.
Why is the up my day in the picture?
He keeps on trying to jump up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hugo.
As
Hugo,
you.
our friend, is there. But anyway, as we said, it's good that people are paying attention to a few things that we're talking about. Now, we were just one of the other things I missed. Well, I went to school at a different time than the board of you did. Anyway, away, different time. But we had the civics and we had different topics in class. We had teachers who were clued into teaching good manners and giving good examples and morals and all of that. And I think sometimes there can be an awful lot left to teachers, and that would be the fault of individual parents themselves.
It's like
But
teachers are expected to rear the children as well, you know. Like
yeah,
I was a teacher for a number of years. I taught in Japan and I taught in England and I taught here in Ireland. And I had to give it up because I it was too stressful. But
yeah,
but the amount that you're expected that's heaped up on top of you that you're expected to do for students.
I'd
When
say
you,
working as a teacher in Japan was a doddle in the sense that I'd say they were the most disciplined and well
what they
behaved.
were, yeah, I was teaching adults. I was teaching all ages, really, kind of after school hours and
yeah.
after business hours. But there was only about 3 students per class, so I mean, there was no
Wow.
problem with discipline or anything like that, you know.
Oh,
But
because of course, when I went to school, there was corporal punishment was allowed, you know, and
yeah,
it was horrendous altogether because you could meet a teacher, man or woman, who was a psychopath or had psychopathic tendencies, and
yeah,
they were just brutal. You were brutalized. You could be brutalized in school, you know, and many people were brutalized in school. Corporal punishment didn't finish till 88, I think, or 89.
I can
But
honestly say I don't remember ever being slapped in school.
you were one of the lucky ones.
I
But
can honestly say, and I had nuns straight through primary, secondary, and I absolutely, yeah, yeah, I just find it incredulous when people talk about brutal. I never saw anything, and I can maybe it was
well,
just
I can tell you now, Mary, that sorry to cut you across you, you're one of the tiny minority
no. I
because
know
the
several of my.
majority of people were treated horrifically.
Oh,
There's
I'm
no
not
doubt
doubting
about it.
it. I'm not doubting
And
it. And I know.
to try and minimize it or anything like that would be an affront to the memory of those people. If you
No,
heard
but you can
some,
only
if you
speak
heard
for.
some of those stories from Christian brothers, from nuns, from lay teachers, men and women, right across the board, there was nobody excluded from the physical torture of small 5, 6, 7 year olds going to school. It was horrendous. How we turned out to where we are, as some
I,
might say,
I
was
have friends who experienced all of that, and they all talk about the horrors. But as an only child who just loved to be at school, maybe all that went above my head, and because I had a very strict family set up, maybe it was no different to me when I went to school. But I was never slapped. I can honestly say it. I only had one nun that I disliked, and that was in secondary school. And she wasn't brutal. She wasn't physical. She was just cruel.
yeah,
Um, she had me standing, knowing I had surgery on my foot. She had me standing for 2 classes because I was a few seconds late for class. That's about the worst I can say, honestly. And I wouldn't like to wrong anyone about me and say, oh, I experienced or I
yeah,
saw.
I know that. But I
I would
mean,
be the type, if I saw something done to somebody, I'd have been mouthy. I'd have said it, and I'd have got into trouble myself for standing up for them. But I
yeah.
didn't.
By the time I became a teacher, it was all about students' rights, and you dare speak to them, you dare try and punish them, or keep them back after class. I mean, you couldn't even be on your own in a classroom with a student. We were advised against that up in Maynooth. You know, if you want to discipline them or have a chat with them, you have to bring them out into a common area.
It's gone the other way around right
You
now.
can't you can't close the door and just be on your own inside the room
well,
with students.
I don't know how it is now in the classroom. I don't know, but if it's progressing the way I think it is, it must be hugely challenging for teachers. You know.
Oh, it
I will
is.
tell you, Pat, my biggest trauma in school was from a lay teacher in primary school who had me absolutely petrified. She didn't do anything to me, but she was so viciously cruel to her own daughter in the class, and she who happened to be in my class, and she would humiliate her physically and verbally in front of us all, whether it was to show, oh well, if I can do it to my daughter, I'll do it to ye. She never did anything to me, but she had I used to be able to sleep at night with what she was doing to her daughter, and
Yeah.
nothing was done to her.
Yeah.
Nothing.
Well, the point about it is this. I heard all the stories on Liveline the last couple of weeks about the physical and cruelty to small children going to school. And the teaching profession have a lot to answer for in Ireland. They really have. They knew what was going on. They knew who the cruel teachers were. And they did nothing about it. They stood idly by. And
Yeah, that's
they have to be
acceptable.
condemned and condemned strongly for that. There's no doubt about it. How you can get retribution, I don't know really, but I mean, I'm saying that they stood idly by, And they remember now in the Ireland at that time, the priests and teachers were pillars of society, people to be looked up to, looked up to and revered in the community. I know myself growing up when the local guard or sergeant retired. It was a huge big thing. Or we'd all get together, we'd have one big party for the cruelest man or woman in the parish.
But
How
Pat,
absolutely, how
you were
obscene it is.
you were in an all Irish boys boarding school for priests, and
Mm-hmm.
you said you had no bad experiences there.
No, none whatever, none whatever. That's
Whatever.
wasn't there that long, but none whatever. But in national school, oh, we were savagely beaten in national school, and the poor students, the students from a poor background, were picked on more often than anybody else. The bank manager's son or the doctor's son did not get any attention. But if you were the labourer's son, by God, if you turned your head the wrong way, you were in for a hammering that day from the
Yeah.
teacher. There's no doubt about that in my mind. No doubt about that.
But now it's gone the full circle. Or rather, it's gone a half circle, if you like. You now have teachers afraid of the students
Yeah, that's it.
Well,
because
And
they're
so
being bullied by the students.
trying to teach them manners and stuff like that. I mean, they're not going to respect what you say anyway inside the class. So they're not going to listen to you if you're trying to instill good manners in them.
Now,
But
I
these
lectured in third
specialist
level and I found
lessons,
them lovely to listen. I found them well behaved, but their attention span, I find youngsters nowadays, their attention span is quite limited because
yeah,
there's so much going on in their lives outside of it.
I
That
know these are people like all boys and girls who've gone into national school, who've gone into secondary school, who've gone on to university, and then next Monday morning they're in a classroom with 26 pupils. They've been in school all their lives, and they're in a classroom all of a sudden just because they got so many marks in their degree they can
they
teach.
did church, yeah.
Where are their people skills? Where are their life skills to bring with them into the classroom? They're not there.
But then there's the other there's the other way of thinking that they're young and they're not much older than the students that they're going to be teaching, so they have a lot in common. So the children can. I mean, the best teacher I ever had in my life was Mary Jackman in secondary school, Senator Mary Jackman. And I had her for English and I had her for history, and I really contribute or attribute, I should say, her to the fact that I went on and did the PhD in English
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
because she instilled so much confidence in me and belief in me, and she made me feel good about myself and empowered. I got a sense of I didn't have the same feeling for her in geography class because although she knew everything, she didn't have that connection. Maybe I had no interest in geography in comparison to English, but I know that she instilled a great sense of value in me as a student, and I think it's important that you find a teacher that makes a difference in your life because they're generally the ones that guide you in the direction, one way or another, that you end up going. And if anyone asks me who was my favorite teacher in school, I would have to say Mary Jackman.
Well,
Without
a teacher can have a huge effect on you, a profound effect, whether it's emotional or physical or whether it's
May she rest
um,
in peace.
academic. But I mean, the teacher I had for history in second year was just, I never lost my love of history because of that teacher.
Yeah.
And it's the same with Irish, the Irish language, Sean O'Bukla, God rest his soul, but he had a way of of making the subject so attractive, so beautiful, so nice. He had just had a way of drawing you in to the narrative of the
Had you someone,
subject,
Lillian?
No, I can't claim. I can't actually say I had anyone in
Yeah,
particular.
yeah,
In my secondary school there were presentation nuns and De La Salle brothers, and they kind of instilled a bit of fear, all right. But there was no one that reached out to me actually. No,
yeah.
no.
Well, it's,
I appreciated history after college.
Yeah.
As I got older, I appreciated history
you
more.
see, our Irish teacher, for being the fact he lived in our parish, he only lived up the road from most of us. Anyway, he came home to us since into the village, and so we meet him socially as well, and we meet him out walking, we meet him outside of school. So there was that
Yeah.
dynamic as well, which helped all the kids. You're listening to the panel here on LeoMedia.tv. Go on to our YouTube channel where you'll find all our programs. Press the red button on the right hand side to subscribe to our channel. We very much appreciate it. I suppose now the next clip we're going to play here for people, in case you're fed up and listen to us talking, is probably one of the better or the best, one of the best radio or TV presenters that I certainly grew up with anyway. And I hope you enjoy it. It's only a minute and a half, and sit back and enjoy it.
However, I'm in the Liberties, and it's Tuesday, the day of the Mickey money. The children's allowance, and
we understand what you mean. That's right. Yes. So, yes. We are now being colloquial about it. Yes.
So in Rialto, they of course built the wonderful flats. The early part was called the mansions.
Yes.
The later part was simply referred to as the flats. So I'm in the Chinamans, and the middle-aged group would of course be living in the mansions. And two wands are sitting there with a little bottle of stout and a jar, little short one, curlers, headscarves with the money in the polka, watching how things go and having a little chat. When in through the door comes this young one from the flats. One child in the pram, one by the hand, 8 months pregnant, sweating in the heat. Goes in and said, Joe, give us a nice little bottle of stout and some red lemonade for the children. So one of the ones with the glimmering eye looks across at her, winks at the other one and said, how are things in fertility flats? And without batting an eye, this woman demonstrates this lovely thing in Dublinese. She turns around and says, better than they are in menopause mansions.
Nice. That's it.
Those two people there are no longer with us. There was Peter and John. If people didn't know about him, he's a songwriter and raconteur, and of course Gay Byrne as well. He had a way of getting stories out of people that I don't think anybody else had.
Gay Byrne was a genius. Gay Byrne will never be touched. Gay Byrne and Jerry Ryan, neither of the two of them will ever be touched when it comes to broadcasting in this country. Do you know that?
I must admit it, like that. I was a big fan of the Late Late Show because I loved the mixture. He had a panel on in the second part of the show all the time, with the great characters on the panel as well, and they discuss everything. And I think that we've lost that. We're a great nation of chatters, of speakers, of storytellers and writers, and we have that natural flair for being dramatic and being shocking. And that's lost now. That could be brought back very easily. But we have the current presenter of late show is very, very poor. Very poor, in my opinion. Very poor.
But it was Gay Byrne's show, and we all grew up with it. And I know that when it was on a Saturday night, and you'd have your bath, and you wash your hair, and you sit down by the fire, big roasting fire, sit down. My mother would be sitting on the chair. I'd be sitting up against her, watching, waiting for the Gay Byrne and the Late Late Show and the Owl and You never knew who was going to be on until they actually appeared. And they were always top of the range guests. Now they're just rehashing people over and over again. You know, if you stay long
I
enough,
mean, they
you'll
have
see.
an awful lot of airheads on now. They have nothing to say. Like that chap Ryan with the black hair, he was on
Ryland's
late show
great.
last week. Now he is an airhead.
No, he's not. He's
There's no
lovely.
substance to the person. He has nothing to say,
Oh, that's
and
not true.
he's done nothing.
That's not true. Ryland Clark is amazing.
That's my
Ryland Clark.
opinion. That's only my opinion.
Well, Ryland Clark is fantastic, and he's a great guy, and he's
What has he
really,
done?
well. He's done loads of shows. He's
Oh,
been
he
on,
was on Big Brother, was he?
huh?
Was he on Big Brother?
He was no. He hosted Big Brother. You can laugh
Oh.
all you like, Pat, but everyone has their tastes. You know, you don't. You can
It's
laugh.
not about taste. It's about uplifting your spirit on a Friday night to listen to good conversation.
No, not everyone wants to listen to a conversation show. Some people just want to just sit back and watch something that makes that.
Well, then you can watch Cartoon Network for that thing.
No, but if you want to watch, some people just like to watch programs and sit back and think, Jesus, I'm actually much more intelligent than that. You know, it makes you feel good about yourself when you watch some of these programs. I love to watch Gogglebox, for instance, and
I do too, yeah.
yeah.
That's real life people. That's like your next door neighbors and all. You know that has a charm.
Ryland Clark
by
is on
itself,
it with
you
his
know.
mother. Ryland Clark is on it with his mother's on Celebrity Gogglebox, and they do exactly the same thing. You're watching them watching television, and you know, and it's and
Is this what it's come to?
yeah, but you can criticize. Yeah, you can criticize Big Brother and that, but Big Brother actually teaches you so much about human nature and how everyone starts off.
Oh, hang on a minute. We're getting into. Oh, it's what
Pat,
like
I'm
what?
not finished. I'm not finished. I'm doing Kamala Harris now. I'm not finished. But once you know, you can be watching that program and you can have you can feel you can see how they come in and they're all best friends with each other at the start, and then suddenly they start getting into their little cliques and they see the people that they think are going to stay longer and that they want to be attached to them so that they'll stay longer with them, and then they alienate the people that they start to think, oh, they're going to be gone now next week, the audience are going to vote them out. And you can it really is an experiment in human nature, and you can see the gangs forming and the bullies all going together and making fun of who they see as the weaker. But the audience aren't fools and they see that happening. And you know, I think it's a great program for as a social experiment. Do you watch it, Lillian?
I watch Gogglebox sometimes, yeah, I do. It is very informative. Like it's very funny as well, just to see how people react and respond. You know.
I haven't watched Big Brother now in years, having said that, but I used to watch it religiously. I watched Strictly Come Dancing.
Yeah.
That's my go-to program. But I have a friend who watches Celebrity Love Island.
Your friend, you're boasting now.
Love Island. So your brain cells seem to grow a little bit more. Kind of thing. You know, I'm sitting down watching this now, and it's just easygoing, relaxing, and you don't have to exert yourself to actually understand what it's about.
Yeah.
Just follow a couple, and that's it.
That's it.
It doesn't take much. What's your favorite program on TV, Lillian?
Sorry?
What's your favorite program?
I don't actually watch much TV at the moment, but I suppose I'd watch the odd episode of EastEnders if it was on, or Gogglebox, or Vera. I like to watch Vera as well.
Vera's great.
Yeah.
The acting is just superb.
It is, and it's very in touch with her surroundings and stuff like that. You know.
Very.
I really like that.
Well, that man that was on there was with Gay Byrne, Peter and John. Of course, he wrote that song, The Fields of Athenry, in case you might have known. He was the author of that. He has been murdered by many a person in the pub at night, you know. And
or in Limerick, they say, "Low lie the fields of Castle Troy."
Yeah, that's a good one. And he wrote the Ferryman as well, and a few more. But
I
he was
thought
a
he
great
wrote
guy.
The Streets of London.
But that wasn't Peter and John. That was oh Christ, he's gone over my head now. Who wrote The Streets of London? Ralph McTell.
Ralph McTell.
Ralph McTell. He'll be coming over again touring. I see there in the new year. Ralph McTell. He comes over. He wrote It's a Long, Long Way from Clare to Here. Ralph McTell, as well as Streets of London. Wrote many nice songs, you know. But I suppose if you write a song it's a massive hit, people don't remember anymore.
And Linda Ball's father then wrote My Lovely Rose of Clare.
Oh yeah, and we'll have a laugh now.
See, nowadays, these modern Eurobirds, they go for the more mature men who've made it in life.
Yeah? Is that why we're having no luck?
I haven't started yet. Just building myself up to it.
Yeah, well, you better hurry up. It'll be closing time soon.
All right, all right. I think we're on a winner here, Tree. All right? Play it nice and cool, son. Nice and cool, you know what I mean? Drink up, Trig. Drink up, we're leaving.
Ain't you going to try for them birds?
No, you're cramping my style, mate. You're cramping my style.
That was really, really funny, that scene, you know. Of the two lads.
Everything in Only Fools and Horses was funny.
Yeah.
All the characters.
The episode with the chandelier, and the episode where they won was it a 7 million or something?
Yeah, and the other scene in the cafe with Boise and
with the sweeping brush.
When he got presented with his medal. I mean, that was just priceless, you know, priceless. What's our favourite comedy on TV, apart from, I suppose, well, Only Fools and Horses will be one of them. And what's the other one they had? To the Man Are Born.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All my favourite comedies are English comedies.
I like Father Ted. Father Ted was very good.
Oh yeah, Father Ted. Well, I never
Ted.
watched Father Ted. I only watched the episode with Mrs. Doyle.
Go on. But she was just superb.
What's your favourite comedy, Lillian?
It's that science one. What's it called again?
The Third Rock from I mean, oh yeah.
The American one, is it?
Yeah.
I know the one with the three lads in the house.
Yeah.
They're all geniuses, genius mathematics.
Mathematics geniuses, yeah, I forget the name of that one now. Jeez, I don't know. It had a good run actually. It had a good run. And the blondie girl and all the way across the hallway.
Yeah.
You see, you're so intelligent, Lillian. That would be your comedy. My comedy.
No, that was very good.
It's very witty. The dialogue is very witty. You know,
Yeah.
I just can't think of the name of it off the top of my head.
It was very well written, you know. Very well written, you know.
It is, yeah.
So is it
The Big Bang Theory.
Big Bang Theory.
Theory.
That's it.
Yeah, Big Bang Theory.
That's it.
I never watched it.
Oh, yeah, it's just
The
very good.
dialogue is brilliant.
It would be very good.
See, I don't really like, I have to admit, I don't think there's any American comedy that I actually like. I just don't get, I just find it's
Well, what about Cheers?
No,
Yeah, I like it. I like some of the older cheers.
I just liked
Yes.
it. I wouldn't have, I just find American comedy is so
Well,
kind
what,
of all, it's
your
all,
man Kelsey Grammer was in that one. What's the name of the one? He was a psychiatrist in there when he sat in his borough.
oh yeah,
Yeah,
that was funny.
that
Um,
was a funny one. You
he
know,
was a doctor,
Fraser,
Fraser.
Fraser, very good, and that's a good comedy. Fraser, and also Seinfeld. Seinfeld was
I
very
never
good, very
watched it.
funny.
But I just find that he twists dialogue, and then you hear this canned laughter in the background.
Yeah,
And I just
well,
think, like, for me, it was The Good Life, Keeping Up Appearances, To the Manor Born, Only Fools and Horses, um, uh, uh, what you call that one,
40 hours,
40
40,
Towers.
40 Hours.
40, yeah,
All of those, and Yes Minister.
yeah,
Um,
that was
Oh,
superb.
quite nostalgic. You'd be nostalgic watching them, wouldn't you?
You
Yeah, I
would,
mean, I often sit down and go through YouTube, and it's like going down a rabbit hole. You look at one episode, and you have to just keep going.
Keep going, yeah. You
You
do,
know,
yeah.
it's just so funny, and it was all clean fun as well. But I mean, I love Ricky Gervais, and he's so politically incorrect as well. But I love not so much his stand up, but I love when he presents, say, the not the Oscars, the other one in America. He can get away with so much. I was showing Pat their one with it's on YouTube, and it's Ricky Gervais, Warwick. I can't think of the other guy's name, and in walks Liam Neeson auditioning, hoping to start doing comedy, stand up comedy.
he wanted to be a stand-up comedian.
It was just Lillian. You just have to YouTube it. It's the
Yeah,
funniest ever, and Liam Neeson is hilariously funny
yeah.
with
In a deadpan way.
in a non-funny way.
Yeah, I know what you're saying,
He-
yeah.
He's there like somebody who's the straightest actor in the world, trying to change his life and become a comedian. And it's the way he manages to succeed in being so funny without being funny.
Yeah.
Now, before we finish, we'll be on the air hopefully again next Wednesday night if we're all left on this planet. And by the time we're on the air next Wednesday, the budget will have been completed. Or should I say, the announcements will have been made on the budget. What I'd like to see in the budget, my number one, and you can be thinking about this, my number one thing on the budget would be that the old age pension, the pension for retirees, is a better way to put it, would be increased by €100 per week. That would be my big ticket thing if I was presenting the budget next Tuesday.
I
That's what I
personally don't think that anybody in this country should have to live on what you're on. If you're on disability allowance or social welfare, you're on €275 a week or €280 a week, I think it is. And and yet they talk about people on minimum wage and minimum wage workers and minimum wage. Nobody should be on a minimum wage. They should be on a livable wage, which a livable wage in this country, you couldn't live under €600 a week, and yet they expect people on social welfare to live on 270 or 280. And then I think if you just say you got a bit of a job in between to add up to that, you've got to notify social welfare, and then they can start taking it off you depending on how they like, and you'll still end up having been half on social welfare, half a job, and only
And
the same amount
did
on
you
social.
ever think that the rules in this country are made to penalise the less well off,
Yeah,
Because there's more of them.
the less well off,
that's
you
very
know,
true.
and they don't apply
I don't know.
to the generality the generality of the population. Only
I
to
don't
the
know if you
poorest,
agree, Lillian,
the
that
poorest, the
275
poorest, the
euros is
poorest,
too
the
little.
poorest population in this country.
I think it's less than that, Mary.
Is it less than that?
It's
But
less
how
than that.
how can that be moral, Lillian?
No, it's not moral. It's immoral.
Talking to Lillian.
It's wrong. It's totally wrong. I mean, you're struggling every week to try and keep things going. You know, you have to go without holidays. You have to go without clothes.
Yeah,
It's demoralizing.
it,
It's a
it,
constant pounding on your back. You know.
you're dead right there. And only the poorest people wind up in court up and down the country every Monday. That's all that's prosecuted in this
Yeah.
country. Are the
That's
poorest people. The poorest people are penalised the most, and you hear craw thumping from our politicians across the board. Just craw thumping, I call it. Oh, he came from a very deprived area. Well, why is it deprived for 100 years?
yeah.
Why? It's
That's
because of the craw thumpers policy. That's why. That's the reason.
yeah.
There's nobody, as I go back to it, what I just said, there's nobody should be under an amount that, if you're on 260, whatever you say it is, Lillian, what, 260, 270 euros, you should be able to earn in a job. You should be at least able to earn 250 euros untaxed to bring you to the level of 500 euros roughly, and that's a minimum wage. And anything above that, fine, tax it. But nobody should have to live under 500 euros
Yeah.
um,
That's true.
a week. You can't live on 200 and whatever, 260.
Well, we'll see now next Tuesday. I mean, as I said, the budget for our country. Now, the budget is an opportunity every year for the government to plan forward thinking and to plan, not to plan, but we know what this government is going to do. They're going to plan for the next election, which is around the corner. There's going to be a lot of giveaways, what I call giveaways. But don't be fooled, people. Don't be fooled by the giveaways. They're only short term things because you'll be back in to the struggles that you were in before in a couple of weeks' time. And with prices going through the roof all the time, every quarter, every month, the prices are going up on groceries. And normal foodstuffs like tea, milk, sugar, butter, bread, they're just
What would you like
absolutely.
to see in the budget, Lillian?
Well, if they could leave the price of cigarettes and tobacco alone, that'd be great.
Yeah, I don't think. I think that's wishful thinking.
Yeah, they're always adding and increasing that. I mean, it's 17 euro 5 cents now for 20 Benson and Hedges. 17 euro and 5 cents. And I
The last,
smoke about 10 to 15 cigarettes a day. I
the
used
last
to,
time that I bought, the last time that I bought 20 cows was 1 in 9 or something.
yeah,
I never smoked. I never even tried it. But I had two parents, one who smoked.
The secret is don't inhale.
My father smoked 100 cigarettes a day. My mother smoked about 20. And I saw it kill them. And they smoked in front of me. And it's no wonder I have asthma without ever having the pleasure of smoking.
yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
They're not good for you, Lillian, but I think that they should just leave people alone. If people want to smoke, let them smoke.
Yeah. Oh, the advertising that they put on packages is unreal.
It is.
It is. It's gruesome.
It's meant to be shocking.
Enough because it doesn't stop enough people smoking. But I just think it's a deadly habit.
Well, Lily, I can tell you personally speaking, I thought I'd never be able to give up smoking. I never thought I would be able, but I was. And looking back now, I'm glad I did. Looking back, when my brother Kevin
Kevin Barry,
smoking killed him at the age of 44. Killed him. That was it, you know.
Gee.
And you're only 44.
But I still wouldn't deprive anyone of cigarettes. And I think if people want to smoke, let them smoke. And I mean, some people, that's what gets them through the day is to be able to just go for a cigarette.
Yeah.
And you know, people are stressed enough without their cigarettes being hiked up in price, and and don't get me started with what they do to poor pensioners who are living out the country, and you know, reducing this amount of alcohol that you can actually drink, because some of these misfortunes, the only time they get out is
to see people after
other human
they
beings.
collect the pension, yeah.
Exactly, and they'll toddle off back down a lane back to their farm,
Yeah.
and
Well, that's true. And as to go full circle, that leads to terrible loneliness, terrible, and it leads to suicide as well. There's no doubt. Let's be realistic. All these things are linked back to
mental health.
To the mental health
Health,
situation. So there's a wider picture to be considered. So, Minister, think of the wider picture next Tuesday, and not from all the leafy shades of Chapel Isle or Burlington Road. You know, there are people living outside the M50, as we say, an awful lot of people. We've come to the end of another edition of the panel. We'll be with you again next Wednesday night at the same time. So, from Lillian, Burke, and from Mary Honan, lads, it's been a blast. Take care and have a nice week.
Good night.
Night.
This is Rare Media. To whom it concerns, welcome to the panel.